Hey everyone, welcome back. I said I'd do it, so here it is. Today we're looking at the ultimate, best bunny build breakdown. This is the one-stop shop with how to make your bunny the strongest she can be. We'll be going over how our kit works, some quirks and build options during this beta period. I'm going to be showing a low investment and zero crystallizations bunny build. You can extrapolate to a max crystallization bunny setup, but it'll take about 3 to 4 crystallizations at mastery rank 40, which I doubt most of us will reach, so it's much more realistic for me to show a zero crystallizations build and explain about what to choose to improve upon. There will also be some light technical explanations on how damage is calculated and how stats scale in this game, just so you have an idea on what you're getting into, as well as to compare to final release next year. Bunny is a Descendant all about speed. She is fast and she kills things fast. As the poster child of the First Descendant, she excels the most in horde killing scenarios where your goal is to bring her damage just high enough to kill enemies in a massive AoE in a reasonable time. Then, the rest goes into maintaining uptime, improving your scaling, and trying to find out how else to add more damage. She also has a giant laser beam, which does a lot of single target sweeping damage, which we will get into later, but that's a bit more complicated. Basically, her AoE is for trash fodder clear, and her beam is for bossing. While she does not have the strongest boss killing potential, her ease of use on not needing to rely on gimmicks, lower health, or hyper-invested weapons allows her to be leveled easily and clear content without issue. The other benefit of building up Bunny is being the best AoE clear for leveling yourself and leveling your teammates with you. We ran the defense in the top left zone of Vesper for current beta patch, and you can reliably level up your teammates from 0 to 40 in a few runs, taking just a little over an hour. Leveling yourself is a bit more problematic on Vesper with Bunny until roughly level 20, but you need at least one other crowd controller Descendant with you to run it properly. Otherwise, level in the sterile lands defense instead. Let's get into her kit. Bunny's 1 throws an electric ball in the air and shocks enemies. This is a decent ability to start and can kill, but on a fully developed build is rather useless. I would not recommend relying on this beyond just getting out of a tight spot when you get stuck, since body blocking is a thing in this game. Her 2 makes her go fast, so Bunny has a passive that allows her to accrue a special secondary energy bar. This static electricity is used to power her 3rd and 4th abilities. Do keep in mind, always be moving, even if you're ADS and sidestepping, because if you stop moving for a few seconds, her bar will immediately start draining down until you start moving again. Now, her 3rd ability costs static once on cast and lasts for the duration, whereas her 4th ability is an active static drain ability. Whenever Bunny runs, she accrues static electricity. Her 2 literally just makes her run faster and thus charge faster, as well as some AoE when she lands from bigger jumps. This is also extremely useful for just getting to other objectives on map faster. It is also good for evading damage, since most melee units and ranged units cannot hit a Bunny with their speed active properly. Body blocking will pull you out of sprint but not deactivate the ability, and you can only use her speed boost in the frontal and 60-degree angles around you. So don't turn corners too sharply if you want to maintain speed and momentum. Alone, her 2 does not do much of value for damage scaling. Her 3 is an AoE pulse that only inflicts damage after you traveled a certain distance. Therefore, her 2 is extremely important for improving your movement speed to make her 3 shock more often. The radius scales with ability range and duration scales with, well, skill duration. Since the cooldowns of this ability is higher than the initial duration, you really want to stack cooldown reduction mods on Bunny. Duration mods are not important because duration does not affect her 1st, 2nd, or 4th ability. If you can cut her cooldowns down long enough, your 3rd ability will be available to recast around the same time it expires. A budget build only leaves you with about 3 seconds before you can cast your 3 again. Her 4th is just a giant laser beam. It has an active static electricity drain cost that does a ton of damage, but there are some unusual damage calculation mechanics that determines how you mod for this ability and affect ability augment scaling, which I'll get into later. This ability does not have proper punch through. Therefore, it is not good for killing hordes, and the reason why you should make sure your 3rd ability does enough damage to kill the level range of hordes you are fighting. Also, unlike last year, skill critical hits now come from Descendant skill crit mods instead of weapon stat sticks. Skill crit mods have garbage scaling on Bunny, so do not use them. Let's get into the augments. I honestly don't remember the ones for her 1st and 3rd ability, so I won't comment on them as they genuinely were not that useful. Her third ability is extremely good as is and is basically the best AoE in the game for horde killing, so you do not want to modify it anyways. Her second augment burns HP to charge her static electricity instead of burning mana points. Now, you do not want to use this unless you have a healer on your team, meaning a pre-made comp. Its only purpose is to allow you to always be able to charge static with your 2 to power your 3 and 4. But a good build with cost reductions is enough, since mana points regenerate naturally after a delay when you're not in combat. Your 4 does not need to be used that often in Colossi fights and has a big cooldown, whereas your 3 has a long initial duration. There is more than enough time in matchmaking content without pre-mates to charge static electricity again, so you don't need it. Your 4th augment is also garbage because it does 5 times the damage of your original 4th ability, but dumps your entire bar instantly. This means if you can sustain your beam for more than 5 seconds, then the augment is worse than not using it, and it uses a slot and extra capacity cost. But there is one other quirk about this augment. Skill power modifier stats add onto the ability rather than multiplying, like suggested here. Bunny Laser by default has 137% scaling at level 40, and the 4th augment has roughly 735 scaling. If you add skill power modifiers, it adds linearly. This means plus 100% skill power modifier increases her default beam to 237% scaling per tick, plus 100. But the 4th augment only increases this from 735 to 835% on hit, meaning it now only takes 3.5 seconds instead of 5 for the default beam to outscale her augment. And obviously you're going to be using skill power modifiers on her kit build. Unless the stat scaling is changed so skill power modifier mods multiply skill scaling like how the info screen suggests, this augment for her 4 is not worth it. One other thing about how damage is calculated in this game. Generic skill power modifiers, skill elemental power modifiers, and skill categories such as fusion tech, etc. power modifiers all add into the same stat. It's just elemental or category types will check to see if the ability is considered of that element or skill category. These add together instead of multiplying. Now, due to mod restrictions that only allow 1 mod per category, you can only equip 1 battle mod. Therefore, you only want to take the best one. But investment matters, since not all mods cost the same golden Creeper shards to max out. If you want the calcs to the best battle mod flex slot, I've included my original spreadsheet calcs in the description and pin comment below. Yes, we literally reverse engineered the damage equation in this game and found the best bunny build possible, hence the title. The best battle mods are typically of purple rarity and can be farmed as random drops in endgame purple mission map content such as the defense or mana wave survival modes or from Colossi fights, the higher tier ones specifically. There's one other important stat to look out for, elemental or category skill power boost ratio. This is a separate final multiplicative stat to all elemental or category skill power modifiers. These are extremely important mods to look out for but are hard to farm. They're the Elemental or Category Specialist, an attack category mod, and Elemental or Category Syncytiums, which are uncategorized and thus can be put on any build. Electric Specialist mods naturally drop from gameplay. I don't exactly remember where, but I already have one from day one. Syncytiums, though, on the other hand, are a lot harder to get and are most easily farmed from Colossi fights with matching elements. Walk a Tightrope is notable for providing a plus 52.5% skill power modifier and firearm attack when below 50% HP. I don't currently know where this can be found, but this Architect mod can help a lot overall. It is particularly OP on Glay or any Descendant that likes to play on lower HP. Now it's time to look at the bunny builds. This is the bunny build I started using around level 26 to level up my teammates on Vesper. This build is not good enough to take down Colossi properly with their laser beam. You're still gonna have to rely on your weapons. Laser beam builds always require level 40 to get enough stat scaling and static electricity sustain. Always use a sub-attack mod, as this increases the total capacity of your Descendant. Electric Masters are battle mod of choice here, as it is the cheapest battle mod for bunny investment wise, and has roughly 93% of optimal scaling on a finished build. This is your bare minimum work in progress bunny build. It does require an energy activator to increase your capacity cap, but you should have access to that since we get a bunch for free during the beta. Skill expansion is extremely important for 3 since it increases her nuke radius, which is squared for circle area. Skill cooldown is extremely important to maintain 100% uptime on your 3, so we mod both Nimble Fingers and Skill Cost Optimize. Even at these low ranks, her mission cooldown drops to 22.8 seconds and lasts 20 seconds. That's why you don't need duration mods, as it also cuts down the cooldown of her laser beam if you need it. The best part about Bunny is that the MP leech enemies can drain mana from Descendants, but cannot drain unique resource bars like Bunny's static electricity. So this allows her to continue nuking even when mana isn't available, so long as your 3 was already active or you have static electricity still available. You cannot avoid modding HP and defense on most Descendants since some enemies have insane accuracy or damage, and you really want to avoid one-shots as much as possible by running around in circles and jumping for extra AoE damage, because dying resets your static to 0 and you cannot cast your 3 until you accrue about 1/4 of your bar, which takes a decent amount of running. Strong Mentality decreases the unique resource cast cost of abilities. For Bunny, that's her static electricity bar, and this is important because it lets you cast her AoE nuke on a new life or reset sooner, as well as reducing the active drain of her laser beam. This build is enough to hard carry your teammates to level 40 on EXP grinds of Vesper so long as somebody brings one crowd control unit. Now, a level 40 Bunny build looks like this. This Bunny was built on Press build and Mastery rank 40. To recreate this build on beta servers around Mastery rank 10 to 15, you will need to use about 3 to 4 Crystallization resets. You can skip out on one of the HP or defense percent mods to reduce Crystallization resets to match correct polarities needed by 2. Remember, ratio mods are final multipliers. Now, I'm using Venom Syncytium because the Electric Syncytium is currently bugged to give Toxin ratio bonus, whereas the Venom Syncytium gives Electric ratio bonus. Conservation Maximum massively cuts down on cast costs. The main benefit of this is making it cost very little mana to build up static electricity when your 2 is actively draining mana points. This gives you 100% uptime on all of your abilities, and the stat penalty of this particular mod is negligible on Bunny. Otherwise, you just have increased range and higher rank Strong Mentality to also cut down on active drain costs of shooting your laser beam. This build is primarily min-max for laser beam damage. If you want to focus more on the AoE nuke, then you replace Strong Mentality with another ranged mod. Your 2 will almost always be active while AoE nuking, making the static electricity cast cost of your AoE negligible after the start of the mission for Horde DPS. If you're fighting in Colossi that requires elemental resist or immunity, then drop skill expansion since your AoE nuke is not that useful in Colossi content. There are a few fodder units only, and they're mainly used just for ammo, and you can get just a little closer to kill them since skill expansion is really only for killing massive hordes at once. Now, Electric Master is the battle flex slot that can be replaced with Focus on Electric, Skill Simplification, and Skill Maximization. These have increasing scaling from 93% to 100% of min-max DPS scaling, but either cost a lot more gold and Creeper shards or have stat penalties you need to play around and be aware of. Electric Master again is the cheapest and best penalty-free option for newer players. Again, if you want the math comparisons, the spreadsheets are in the pinned comment and description. Cheers! If this is your first time watching, feel free to leave a like or better yet subscribe. If you have any questions, let me know your thoughts down in the comments. 79.5% of you are not subscribed. Stick around if you want to see interesting memes and build on a nearly daily basis. You won't miss out on any of that, do you? That'll be it for this video. Thank you all for watching and see you all next time.